start of our poetry unit. Before we can start a poetry unit and actually get into poetry, we have to know what poetry terms are used when we're discussing this. Building our vocabulary is one key piece into being able to write poetry as well as read and understand poetry. First, we will talk about sound devices. Does anybody know what alliteration is? Alliteration.
Sounds just like it is.
Sounds just like it is. Close. It's the repeat of a whole bunch of letters in a row. So for example, things such as Best Buy and Dunkin' Donuts would be an alliteration. The whole Sally sells, she sells by the seashore. Now is it a tongue twister? It's an alliteration because the S's repeat more than once. Now I'd like you to turn and talk to your neighbor, and each one of you comes up with one example of alliteration that you can think of just on the spot. Go. Doesn't have to be a story. You can just make it up. You can make up a sentence that has all the letters in a row.
What? Shakopee Sabers.
That works. There we go. Onomatopoeia. This is what I think someone in the class thought was alliteration. This is where the word that you write out is the sound. Things such as buzz or boom pow, if you ever read those comic books, if you ever, those graphic novels, all those boom pows, those are all onomatopoeias. Next, we're going to talk about figurative language. Figurative language helps us dissect the poem and helps us give more meaning to the poem in less words. So imagery is the first one. So imagery is when the author creates a vivid picture that's in the reader's mind. So what they're doing is they're writing words, they're using adjectives and adverbs to really paint a picture so the reader doesn't have to think about what they have to picture. It just comes naturally and they can invest more time into the story or the poem than they can building the scene in their head. So, example, on the board is about the sun glistening on the water. There's 1,000 diamonds sparkled in the sun. So which words in here, which key words might have helped us figure out how to paint the imagery, the image in our head?
1,000 diamonds sparkled in the sun.
1,000 diamonds. You can actually picture the diamonds just sitting there sparkling. Everyone knows what a diamond looks like. Most people know what a diamond looks like. It's easy for them to picture that in their head right off the bat, and then they can correlate that, and they can see it with the sun. It just makes everything look a little bit nicer. Imagery is going to be one of the very easy ones to use when we use our poems. When we get a chance to write our poems, you're going to get to pick some of these to kind of practice with. This is a good one to keep in mind because this one is something that you guys do without even realizing it. Every time you guys tell a story to somebody, every time you guys are explaining something that happened over the weekend, you guys are using imagery because you want us to see what happened. Next, we have a metaphor. So a metaphor is a comparison not using like or as. This one kind of gets to be a little bit tricky sometimes. We'll do the easy one next. But the comparison using not like or as is basically saying that something is something else. So here, life is a highway. Or the bird is a speeding bullet. Something like that where that there's no comparison, you're saying it is something else. Turn and talk to your neighbor and see if you can come up with one metaphor to describe our classroom in a way that is helpful to someone else to be able to relate to that classroom.
Our classroom is a journey.
It's a journey, very good. Other ones that I've heard before is our classroom is a safety zone where kids can come and they can learn. Our classroom is a amusement park is what I heard one day. Well, I won't get into details about that one. So, the simile is very, very similar to a metaphor, but it's a little bit easier because this time you get to use like or as. So the simile is using like or as. So he was as hungry as a horse, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can do this, and like we said before, a lot of times you guys will probably have done this as you guys are talking. You guys are trying to describe something else. You kind of figure out, well, we know a horse is super hungry, or we know that a mouse is really quiet. So if you're describing someone as quiet as a mouse, they're going to know, oh, that's really, really quiet. It's going to be a little bit easier to understand versus just saying she was super quiet. Plus, it's a little bit more fun. So symbolism is using a symbol to represent something bigger. Very frequently, we see a heart as a symbol of love. A lot of times, the sun will represent happiness for something, or the color blue might represent being sad about something. So now you guys all have your little whiteboards. So in order to practice symbolism, because this one's going to be kind of important for us as we move forward in our unit, I want everyone to draw one symbol, and when you get done, I want you to show it to a neighbor and see if they can figure out what your symbol is, and then now you need to explain to them that symbol. We're gonna take your whiteboards. Here you go. Here's a marker.
A red marker?
I hope so. Is that a permanent marker?
Forever.
Yeah. So for example, I could draw a heart, and I would say it's for love. So turn and talk to your neighbor.
They don't get it.
They don't get it, then how can you explain it to them so they do get it?
It's a cross. It's religion. Everybody knows what religion is. And my cross symbolizes religion in all different places.
Now, if you were to take that cross and you were supposed to then write up the word and use that in a poem, what could your poem have in it besides a cross so that you could keep the theme going, the symbolism with the cross? So we're going to step back and we're going to think about if I was making this into a poem, what could I do? I'm going to use a cross. I'm going to use my student's example of a cross, and we're going to turn this into a couple lines of a poem. So if you wanted to introduce your cross being a symbol, what other things might you have to say to preface that symbol?
Like the cross was by the church, or they knew when they saw the cross they were getting close to Sunday school, or they were going to be learning something at church.
Very good. Exactly. So anytime you can relate what your symbol is to something in the real world for people to picture, it makes it a lot more realistic. So, real quick, we're going to review the couple words we just had. When I get to it, I want you to raise your hand, oops, and I want you to give your best either example or your best description of what it is. So, loration.
Not the one that sounds like it, it's the one. Oh, Shakopee Sabers.
Very
Something
good.
that uses the same sounds over and over.
Yep, the same sounds over and over. Very good. So repeated letters in a row, right? Best Buy, Dunkin' Donuts, Shakopee Sabers. Love it. Next, real quick, onomatopoeia.
Well, I'd say grr, but that's really just the sound that it makes. How about?
Yeah, well that would be the sound written out. That would be the sound because you write out grr, G-R-R.
Right.
And that's the same, that's what it would be. So like a tiger grrring. Imagery. What was imagery?
Imagery, it was a very, I say quiet, peaceful, but I don't know if that's what I want to use. It was, the house was very messy and chaotic, and there was stuff all over. There was papers on the floor and food on the table and garbage in the corner. It was just a big old mess.
Yes, so what are you doing for us?
Drawing a picture of what the house looks like right now.
Exactly, drawing a picture of what the house looks like so we know exactly what it is. All right? What was a metaphor?
Something that stands for something else without as is, he was a whirling dervish, or he is a whirling dervish.
Okay, so are you comparing something or contrasting something?
Oh. Comparing.
Comparing, right? You're comparing something, not using like or as, you're making a statement, right?
Okay.
A simile, super close to a metaphor.
Means he was as quiet as a mouse or as tall as a tree.
Right, so it's again comparing something, just using what words?
As or like.
Like or as, exactly. And then the last one we worked on, was symbolism. What was that?
Something that stands for something else. Like the saber stands for Shakopee and how strong and tough they are.
Exactly, very good. Now we are going to actually get a chance here to look at a poem. Open. Alright, so we're gonna have a chance to look at a poem, and we're gonna focus just on the first little section here, and we're gonna see which parts of the poetry terms we learned about that we can find in this poem. So, our poem is September by Helen Hunt Jackson. It says, the goldenrod is yellow, the corn is turning brown, the trees and apple orchards with fruit are bending down. The gentian's bluest fringes are curling in the sun, and dusky pods the milkweed, its hidden silk has spun. So we're gonna focus on the top two, right about there, okay? Who can think of any of those specific poetry terms we just talked about that they can see in our first two stanzas of this poem?
Imagery.
Imagery, where do you see the imagery at?
You see the trees in the apple orchard with a whole bunch of fruit and like their limbs are all bending to the ground.
Very good, exactly. So the author is using adjectives in order to describe things very vividly so we can see it. Very good. We're done. I was just making a pause so I could stop.